Just like Ignatius, the ultimate youth master. He's the greatest video of all time. He goes, okay. It's like a joke from youth group. He goes, okay, everyone close your eyes. If you've struggled with impure sexual thoughts, I want you to stand up. No one else is looking around. Just stand up, just so I can see you. I see you. I see you.
Impure thoughts?
Yeah. And then he goes, and then everyone's got their eyes closed. He's like, stand up. Everyone else, open your eyes. These people!
Need you to pray for them because they are struggling with being perverted. He just goes off on it.
It's really
it's like a satire.
Deanna, have I never shown that video to you? I will send that video to you. It's the greatest video
It's like the most awkward thing you'll ever watch.
Is it real though?
Yeah, no, it's a youth group made it as a joke.
Oh, okay.
About what
I was like, that is not okay.
No, it's
like
it's making fun of all the bad things that you can do.
He knows the universe, and he's like, did you know that the universe is billions and billions of galaxies, and the Hubble Space Telescope, which farther than it's ever looked, hundreds of miles, and it looked, and it saw this, and it has like Jesus' face photoshopped on the sun, and it's like Jesus Christ. Anyway.
It's like, if you don't mind feeling awkward,
you better watch
it's funny, but it's very awkward.
You can't make me do anything I don't want to do.
And he jokes about his smoking hot wife. He's like, if you're not married, it's so wrong. But not for me, because I have a smoking hot wife. And he goes on about her. It's like, oh my gosh, stop.
Phil always says
that's terrible.
When a guy says his wife or his girlfriend's smoking hot, she never is. It's like he's telling himself that. Why do you keep talking about that? Like his work. And he's like, she's not that ugly, but he has acted and she's some runway model for Vogue or something. And he's like, very average, but why do you want to Or he's had men go, isn't my wife hot? And he's like, I don't know how to respond to that. Do I say no and then it's her response, and if I say yes, that's just weird and disrespectful. He's like, I don't know.
That's a very awkward question.
Yeah, people ask me stuff like that. He's like, I don't know what to do right now.
You're
like, I gotta go bathroom.
I'm gonna keep my mind on my own life,
right? Who does that?
Awkward. Well, who needs the affirmation from other people?
That's what Phil said. He's like, there's something where they don't feel secure in their relationship or something. Why do you know that? He's like, I don't want them to
It's very hot.
I'm gonna
I got this.
Okay, hopefully this will. I think they stole the remote. That changes the
Cool.
It's Ben's fault. He taught today.
No, it's fair. I did eat it.
What?
He ate the remote.
I need to eat it for power.
No.
I know why you guys are laughing. That's real.
No.
I have a better nose than him, though.
No, I'm trying. Oh,
there it is.
Down there.
I love this show.
All the way back. Okay.
Oh my gosh, we are watching a video.
This is basically like watching.
That's my favorite part.
No, we're definitely not watching the video. Sorry.
Dang.
I apologize. I didn't say it.
Somebody else said video just like we're not watching.
The best there ever was.
What?
Like Jake the best there ever
Did you get your
was.
computer open? Oh, it does the bestest.
I wonder who made this slideshow. It must have been Ben.
It's got to be Ben or
my
Dave
gosh,
or
my
something.
dyslexia is kicking in. I read it as by Jake, the bestest 3 ever was.
The bestest 3 ever was.
What?
Yes.
I didn't see the R, so I just saw
It says 3.
You didn't see the R. I didn't saw
You moved the R.
What do you mean?
I saw the word.
Oh, 3? Yeah, that would be a problem.
You saw 3. Really?
Okay, guys.
Mr. Rogers is going to take your shoes off.
No, my shoes are tied, so I was just shoving them down there like an 8-year-old who doesn't know how to tie their own shoes.
Exactly, never mind.
Who's Mr. Rogers, and why do people keep on talking about him?
Because I'm old.
No, Jake's really Bill Nye the Science Guy.
So you know the
I don't like Bill Nye. He's like a crazy
He
person.
is a crazy person.
I think he's mean.
He is.
He is.
He's mean.
He's not a real scientist!
Down there.
My fucking science childhood is alive. That guy's
He's not a real scientist.
He's a freaking actor!
Lucy, we start the thingy.
Actually, he's
I
enjoying
did.
the weird
Okay,
stuff.
perfect. Cool.
I started it like
Crazy
5
things.
minutes.
Perfect. Thank you, Sue.
Hello, my fans.
Success. Okay,
Ah.
so
Thank you, Q.
okay, guys, I'm going to open us in prayer, and then we will get started. So everyone bow your eyes and close your heads. Every eye bowed, every head closed. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time where we can get together and talk about how to grow closer to each other and closer to you. Help us to celebrate the 4th of July well and to have the good middle of the summer without getting bored. Lord, please help school to come back quickly for everyone who wants it. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Who wants that?
Do you want me to list a few
Non-homeschool parents. Non-homeschool
I feel like I
parents.
need this summer.
Yeah, that's what we're celebrating. I'm
Yeah,
celebrating.
on the 4th of July tomorrow. I
Happy
guess.
Treason Day.
It's actually belated Canada Day.
Yes, exactly. So, this month we are going to be talking about Christian maturity. What does Christian maturity look like? And we're going to try to basically hit that, and partly to talk about, as you guys know, the 6th graders are coming in. So, today a little bit we're going to be talking about what it looks like to make this a good space for the 6th graders to come in. And the goal is that hopefully the 6th graders will hear all the things about what it means to be a mature Christian and might take a little bit faster steps towards maturity, because we all know as you get older what it's like when the new 6th graders come in and they're very, very short and they get so much taller by the end of the year.
Hi.
I'm sure Ashlyn. Ashlyn's.
Yeah, it's true. Ashley's
That's the worst one, right?
yeah, exactly. Matthew's almost to 7th grade. We're doing good.
It's gonna come back a couple years.
So, the first thing I want you to do is on the card that you have, I want you to write an adult you know who you think is like the pinnacle of Christian maturity. Okay?
The pinnacle.
Like they are the most mature Christian that you know.
Does it have to be an
Write
adult?
the name. What?
Does it have to be an adult?
No.
If it's not adult, I'd be shook.
If you know like a 12-year-old who's just like there, if you want to write down Violet's name, go for it. So who is the Christian that you know personally who's like the most mature Christian you know?
I don't know.
Definitely
Do they
not
have to be here?
No, just anyone you know who's a Christian.
Myself.
But you can't be like,
Me,
wow, I've
myself,
seen this
and I.
person on TV once.
Oh,
If anyone
so
writes
we have
down-
to know them?
Yeah,
Oh.
if you write down Joel Osteen, that don't count.
Well then,
You don't
we
know
have.
them. I'm just doing
Can we have like a few seconds? Cause I got.
Yeah, you got a little bit. Yep.
Those chocolate
2,
fuckers, man.
5.
What?
No one's gonna read it.
I'm not the most mature person.
As a Christian, whatever
You
it
might
means
be.
to
I
you.
suppose your name is Janell, so.
There's just another E on
I don't know.
Chocolate Thunder.
Thanks.
That's the only.
Ooh.
I don't remember who that was.
She's
Right.
like,
Your mom's probably
They said very different class.
Okay, when you're done, go ahead and look at
You
me.
can't punish her.
Trying to keep track. I don't know if Matthew wrote something or if he's just staring
I
blankly.
wrote something.
Perfect. Okay, we're doing great.
You told us to stare at
yeah, yeah.
Oh, he did.
Okay, so with that, who are some of the people you wrote down? If anybody want to call out who they wrote down?
My dad.
The dad. Say it one more time. Janelle. Read. Pastor Mike. Gotcha from camp. I mean.
You know, this might come as a shock, but I actually said you. You're not.
Oh my
mature.
God.
I wrote Jake too.
Can I give my reasoning
Okay,
at least?
I wrote that you. You're not mature. Thank you. Emily.
No,
Appreciate
like,
that.
hold on. Like, you have your funny moments, but I've asked you for advice before, and you're pretty blunt about it.
He barely
So,
is.
I wrote down
That
Jake
being-
too.
that being said, that shows maturity.
And I guess Mom.
Jake has a
I guess.
I wrote down Jake.
I wrote Chocolate Thunder, Jake, and Janelle.
There you go.
And
Nice.
I wrote
It's from camp.
Mike
What-
Tyson.
That's
What did you write down?
Did you actually write that?
I wrote Ron Cleaver. He's like, you know how Angelina has a second parents, which are the Shoals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like my Shoals.
You're like second parents
Yeah.
when you were growing up. Okay, yeah. What about you, Janelle? Who do you write?
Or my dad.
That's true. Ed Black is the most mature Christian
I like
person.
have a man crush on that
I-
Black.
He's amazing.
Like Ed Black this.
I wish
Ed
Ed
Black
Black. I
that.
wish Ed Black was my grandpa. know. That's what I wish.
Just be
Let's have it.
adopted. That would mean that you have to be my child.
Could have some
but-
adoption papers for Christmas and give them
Imagine
Yeah,
if it's
there you
somebody
go.
adopted.
Wait, your maiden name was Black?
Yeah.
like serious
So
ones.
now I know the whites and the blacks.
Yep. Which,
Oh, crazy.
sorry, this is a really random tangent. One time, Ed Black got up in front of his church, and it was the first time he had been to this church. He had just started pastoring there. He said, "Can all the black children come up to the front, please?" And then, as he says it, these 3 little blonde and redhead kids walk up to the front, and I introduced my family to the church. Anyways, sorry, I love it.
That's not exactly how the story goes.
That's how he tells
but
it.
I'll allow it.
Tell the story, John. We hear this now.
So how it went is we actually had one family from Ghana in our church, and it was like it wasn't his first Sunday preaching. It was like just a random Sunday, but there were some guests visiting,
Gotcha.
and he called the black children up front, and the guests were like, like how dare he like call out an ethnic group and like call those kids, and then all these white kids went up, which was me and my brothers.
Yep.
That's gross.
There we go. That works.
Corrected.
So, one thing that I think we have, and whether you know it or not, I think a lot of people don't, is we have this very big view of individualism in America. This kind of like, it's me and God against the world. It's what I can do, it's what I can make, all of these different things. In fact, anybody know Emily Dickinson?
Yes.
Okay, she wrote hundreds and hundreds of poems, and a lot of them center around the fact that she was a recluse who hid in her house, and the only time she came out of her house normally was during church, because everyone would be at church, and so she would go like into the fields alone, and she wrote all these poems about how she could experience God alone. Okay? And my guess is, based on the people, like whoever you wrote down, my guess is that they probably are committed in their church. Because Christian maturity has a lot to do with being in the church. And the church, a lot of times, like, it's a great thing, great things can happen, but because we're people, we rub against each other in different ways, right? And like, people get hurt, feelings get hurt, all of these different things. If you had a church where you never got hurt, then it probably wouldn't be worth going because you wouldn't talk about anything serious, you know? So Christian maturity is built through the church. I like to say that the church is God's plan to change the world and to change you. And that takes a lot of different growth places where things aren't always easy. So with your paper, I want you to flip it over. And I want you to write down, very quiet for like 2-3 minutes. I want you to write the word belong at the top. And then I want you to write down any words that say, what does it mean to belong? 3 to 5 words. What does it mean to belong? Whether that be to a family, to the church, to any group. What does it feel like? What does it mean to belong with that group? I had this question asked to me the other day while I was at therapy for a week, which was super fun. And he had me do this with a sheet of paper, except for he gave me a sheet of paper this big and was like filled out for like the next 30 minutes.
You were there for a week?
To belong.
Yep, to belong. What does it mean to belong?
How was that?
Use your thinking brain.
I
It was
don't
fun.
have a thinking brain.
Yeah, was it
Yeah.
helpful?
I have a doing brain.
Okay, then do your doing.
Do the thing and write it.
Just do it.
What does it mean to belong? I'll say this, I had a very hard time figuring out what to write down at first. I feel like I'm at home. The sirens.
I hit the body.
How well?
I
That
You're
is
on
terrifying.
camera.
I thought you were gonna
Oh,
finish it.
That scared me.
His daughter on camera.
When you have 3 to 5 things, raise your hand, let me know. 3 to 5 things.
Oh, I wrote like a sentence.
That works too, yeah.
Your class is totally stressing her out. by the way.
Let's
She
go.
talks about it weekly.
I'm so scared.
Does everybody have 3 to 5 words? No?
You're using words, you mean things.
Things, yeah. 3 to 5 words or things. Yeah, what does it mean?
You can do sentences, right?
Yeah, you can say that.
Okay, I don't do sentences.
I wrote sentences.
Like, it's not just sitting.
I have 3 words that I have, but I'm going to take a long paragraphs to explain them. So
it's kind of cheating.
Yeah, kind of cheating. Okay, so what are some of the words that you guys wrote down? What's everyone like? Someone give me one word or sentence that they wrote down. What does it mean to belong? Any?
Connected.
Connected. Yep.
Or comfortable.
Or comfortable. Okay. What else we got?
Acceptance.
Acceptance. That's one of my words.
Love.
Love. Good. Wanted. That's also one of my words. Good job, Reed. What else do we
I
got?
put forgiven. Because
Forgiven.
I'm going to upset somebody I love
Yeah.
eventually.
Yep.
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice. Yeah. So the words that I came up with, I think all of those are good. These are the 3 that I came up with. Was acceptance. I kind of cheated on Reed's word of wantedness and care. So I'm going to go into acceptance has a few different parts to it, right? And part of it is acceptance regardless of your race, your gender, your history, your past, any of those things, right? It's acceptance regardless of your hair color, your eye color, your body type, any of those things. But it's also acceptance when you open up your heart to someone and they see the damage inside. They see the things that are painful that you hold on to. It's acceptance regardless of that. And it's acceptance regardless of these things I've done. I really want to quick say, it's kind of weird to say, it's like, we shouldn't be okay with sin, right? If someone comes to me and is like, hey, I'm doing this sin, I should be like, cool, stop. But it's like acceptance in light of that sin with them knowing like what they need to do. It doesn't mean it's like we just stop sinning all of a sudden. But like we accept people where they are, where they have their stumbles, and going forward, right? It's regardless of any of those things. And I think if we think about what acceptance means in a group, is I like to picture, and Ben might have seen this because I explained this to his friend the other day. I like to picture a heart, which is really greatly drawn. Okay? You're welcome. It's either an apple or a heart.
Lily pad.
Okay, or a lily pad, yes. Okay. And that's like who we are, right? Your heart is who you are. Like your soul, like the hurts, the things you've struggled with, but who you are as a person. And so that we don't get hurt, we often put up boxes around our hearts. Whether that, these walls could be like anger, like a bright well, or like emotion in some way to like protect ourselves. Or we could like project success, like we want to make everyone think that we're super successful at this thing so they'll like us. Or we project like that you're really funny, right? So that everyone thinks you're really funny. And all of those things are things that can be true about you, but a lot of times we can use them to shield ourselves, like shield people from seeing who we truly are, because we're afraid that people will see us for who we are and reject us, right? And so acceptance in a group means that you bring those walls down and you let people in to see what your heart is. And you're still accepted. And that's what it means to belong. And I don't think you can actually belong to a group or feel like you belong to a group until you started bringing those walls down a little bit, right? Because at least for me, if I'm in a group and I have all my walls up, I have all these things up and I never talk about the hurts or anything that I have going on, then what I think is, well, I'm in this group. Like, I'm in this group. But I don't belong to this group because if they knew me, they wouldn't accept me. And so to belong, you have to lower those walls and find out if the people will accept you. And in the same way as the church, as our community, as our youth group, when someone brings down those walls to us, we have to accept them, where they are and who they are, and not isolate them or ignore them because of who they are, either physically or who they are emotionally and inside. Okay? Make sense? Okay, wantedness. I used wantedness because wanted just didn't feel all the way there, but it gave me a nice little red line under that when I wrote it on PowerPoint, so it's not actually a word. I'm going to use a story from Joe. I asked him permission. Joe's my friend. If you don't know Joe, he's awesome. He's the one that gives me singing lessons. The guitarist this morning at church, he's his son. Okay, we look like the exact same person. Joe, once we were sitting in the car and talking, and it was one of those moments where he had like that admission that he didn't want to say it because it became true to him when he said it. And Joe had moved from California when he was a junior in high school, and he had kind of collected some friends from Castle Rock and some friends online and different stuff. And we were sitting there, and he was like, Jake, I don't feel like I have that many friends, even though I have all these people I hang out with in these groups. I was like, why is that? Because no one misses me when I'm not there. The group isn't any different for anyone when I'm not there. I don't feel like they think I add anything to the group. I'm there, they invite me because I'm on the group text, but if there wasn't a group text, they'd probably forget me to invite. Does that make sense? Have you ever felt like that? I know I felt like that. Raise your hand. Have you ever felt like, you know what, I feel outside and I feel like I'm the one person. I think that's how I always feel. I'm the one person here in this room that's expendable to this group, right? And being wanted, feeling wanted, and giving wantedness to others, or giving other people the feeling of wantedness, is really important. Because for the most part, I would say, in most of the groups I'm in, I am wanted. It doesn't always feel that way. And so, I think as Christians, we have to take our community, we have to say, you know what? People, if we aren't explicit about it, if we aren't like straightforward about wanting people, they might never know. And they might think that they're just another face. And it takes a lot of effort to just remind people, hey, I want you here, hey, I care about who you are. And that goes on to not just, I think, the acceptance side of things, but showing people that after you accept them, that you still want them in your life. That it's not, okay, now I accept you for that, but that's, you're struggling with lying all the time. I accept that, but I desire you to be here less. People feel that, right? When they release themselves, they can feel kind of accepted but not wanted, right? Or if people are immature, or if they feel like other people don't find them funny, or any of these different things, they can find themselves feeling unwanted. What?
When you're left off the group text.
When you're left off the group text. Yeah, no, definitely. So, so the last one for me was care, and I thought about this one a lot. It was this idea that the people in the group care about you enough to ask about you, but also enough to try to help you when you're not asking for it. So my dad is great. My dad is an ultimate couponer. Okay? And when I say that, I mean they could make he could be on the TV show, like Ultimate Couponer. He would come home every week when he would go shopping. He would go shopping at 4 a.m. because that's when the best sales are. And he would show up and he'd be like, I got 85% off of the grocery bill this week. He would pay 15% on everything. Now, what did that end up with? That ended up that when we moved from Colorado to California, we gave away 45 bottles of barbecue sauce, the exact same barbecue sauce, because it was so on sale that he bought all of them. Or the fact that we gave away, I think, 90 cans of bean and bacon soup that he had gotten for 10 cents a piece. Yeah. But my dad was a really good couponer. But I think, and you can see this in lots of people, but I think it was very obvious to me, actually, as a teenager. My dad would come home and he would announce how much he got off. And if you didn't recognize it, he would get really frustrated. He didn't need anything except for, wow, that's really cool, Dad. Which is kind of hard to do when he does it every single week. But it's like, wow, Dad, that's really cool, right? That's cool that you could do that. And I think care is the pre-side of that. Care is when you do things before people start kind of asking for them. You ever felt yourself digging for praise when you're like, you kind of like really say something bad about yourself? You know, I'm 10 out of 10 terrible. You say something nice about me, so they're like, but like you don't actually feel 10 out of 10 terrible. You just really need someone to say something nice about you right then, right? But there is that, what care is, it's when as a community or as a person in a community, you're meeting other people's emotional needs and physical needs before they have to kind of reach for them. It's when you see, you know, this could be something I could help with. Is there anything I can help with? Instead of waiting for that really obvious moment where someone's like, well, if someone would help me do this, then, you know, going for before that. A good example of this, I'm going to call Deanna out right now because I didn't actually have that much of an example of this. And then I remembered it today while we were playing the game. So Deanna treats me like a younger brother, if you haven't figured that out in some ways. And we're playing like the 9 square. And Deanna comes over to me and she's like, Jake, you have fuzzies in your hair. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, no, just let me get it. And she just started picking them out of my hair. Which is like really random, but I think that's a good example of minor care that's done for other people, right? That's, hey, I saw this as a need that you don't even know about. Here you go. I'm caring for you. I'm providing for you. I'm inviting you over to my house because I know you don't have anywhere to go after church. I'm inviting you to dinner because I know that you're lonely, any of those different things, right? Caring for people. I go, hey, I'm not sure what it was, but you felt off today. Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? All of that is care, and that's what makes a community feel like you belong. So I think those three, acceptance, wantedness, and care, are what make a community feel like you belong. Right? So, I'm going to read from a passage. Everyone read that? Oh wow, it's really big. Did everyone read that? I'm going to read it out loud anyways. So this is part of the final remarks that Paul gives in one of the first letters he writes, 1 Thessalonians. You'd be tricked into thinking it was a later letter because it's like almost at the very end, but that's because someone decided at some point to organize the New Testament by length. Good job on them. So this is actually one of the first letters that Paul writes, if not the first. And he says, and this is the final, it's like he said his letter and now he's saying goodbye. And he says, now we ask you, brothers and sisters, I want to draw your attention. Paul uses brothers and sisters because that's what a church community is like. It's a situation where you may not always like them, but you can't get rid of them, so you might as well love them, right? So now we ask you, brothers and sisters, to acknowledge those that work hard among you, who care for you in the Lord and who admonish you or encourage you. Hold them in the highest regard and love because of their work. Live in peace with each other, and we urge you, brothers and sisters, warn those who are idle and disruptive, encourage the disheartened, help the weak, be patient with everyone, make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong, but always strive to do what is good for each other and for everyone else. And I think that's a really cool vision of it. Like, if that was what the church looked like all the time, that would be really awesome. And I think most of the time, I think the church does a really good job, of that. Sometimes things go wonky because we're people, right? But I think we see these things, encouraging the disheartened, helping the weak, being patient with everyone, telling people, warn people who are idle and disruptive, all of those things show, you're accepted for who you are, even if you are weak or disheartened, or I need to be patient with you for some reason. You're accepted for who you are. I want you here, even when you're being idle and disruptive. I want you here, and I'm gonna be like, hey, knock it off. I still want you here, but stop, right? And there's care. They're going forth and they're working to help each other, even when they're not asking for it, right? So I was also talking about this the other day. It came to my mind. So this is Matthew 15, 21 through 28, and this is kind of, I like to call it the test of Jesus when he tests his disciples. They do a really good job. Okay? And it's when this Syrophoenician or Canaanite woman comes up to Jesus. And as a little bit, Canaanite woman, the worst of the worst. She's like, number one, she's a woman. Number two, she's not someone that a normal Jewish man or rabbi would talk to. Normally a Jewish guy wouldn't talk to that many women, but especially a Canaanite woman. They're kind of anathema to their culture. And we'll see that. So leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon, which is outside of Israel. A Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him, crying out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly." Don't read the next line. Okay? If you already have, that's okay, but don't read it yet. Okay. What does it feel like Jesus' response is going to be? Like, what the Jesus you know, what is his response to? "Lord, help me, my daughter is possessed and suffer by a demon and suffering terribly." What would the Jesus you know do?
Heal her.
Heal her? Yeah? What would the Jesus you know do? He'd take pity on her. He's healed other women and other non-Jewish women before. So Jesus did not answer a word, which must have been super awkward. Imagine like a woman comes up to you and starts pleading with you. Later you'll see, it's not, she doesn't just say it once, she's like repeating it over and over and over again, and Jesus is like, right? Really awkward. So his disciples came to him and urged him, "Send her away, for she keeps crying out to us." That's how you know that it's not just one time. She keeps on doing it. It's annoying the disciples so much. And the disciples aren't doing so well on this test, because it's true. Jesus wants to heal people, and he wants to bless people, and he wants to take care of people. And he doesn't say anything, and he lets the disciples, he's kind of like, you know what, if I wait, maybe the disciples will do what they're supposed to and be like, "Jesus, what are you doing? Why aren't you talking to this woman? Why aren't you healing her? Everything you've been teaching us says heal this woman." No, they fail. They say, "Send her away. She's annoying. We can't stand her. She's the worst." The answer to the woman: "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." Which is weird, because again, he has healed the Roman officer's son already, like 3 chapters ago. And he's not from Israel. The woman came and knelt before him. "Lord, help me," she said. He replied, "It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." At this point, I think Jesus is playing dumb. He's playing like a normal rabbi, what he's going, this is like, "What are you doing? What are you talking about? I'm a rabbi, you're not a Jew, like you're not good enough to be here." I think hoping for someone like Peter, who's a loudmouth, to jump in and be like, "Jesus, I'm so confused." But they don't. She says, "Yes, it is, Lord," she said. "Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus says to her, "Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted," and her daughter was healed at that moment. When you read this story, when I read the story, it seems really weird if you don't understand like kind of what Jesus is doing, where he's kind of like testing his disciples. And his disciples are failing at bringing this woman into the fold, right? Jesus cares about women. He cares about little children who weren't respected at all at that time. He cares about women who weren't respected at all during that time. He cares about non-Jews who weren't respected by Jews at all at that time. He wants them to belong. He wants to include them, which is why later, I'd say this is actually one of his setup points for later when he finally says at the end of the book, "Go out into all the nations," right? Because Jesus cares and wants all of them to belong to his church and to his kingdom so that they can mature and go forward. So, here's what I think. I think we have a tendency to think of 6th graders like this. I told you I'd come back to it. We have a tendency to be like, when the 6th grader asked the question that you asked 3 years ago. We're like, "Oh my gosh, we've already talked about this. How do they not know it? Jeez. My gosh, how do they not know the Bible stories that I know? How do they not know how to behave like I know how to behave?" It's because they're 11 and 12 and they're younger than you and they haven't experienced it yet. And what I think Jesus would call us to do and what Paul would call us to do is to take the opportunity starting next week to say, "Hey, how can I make this a place where incoming 6th graders and non-6th graders, whether they're 6th graders or just new people, feel accepted, wanted, and cared for?" Because that's how we're going to build relationship over the long term, and we're going to build them up into the people that they can be. Okay? So I'm going to pray, and we're going to break into small groups. So bow your eyes and close your heads. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time of transition and for the time of moving up and onward. We pray that the 6th graders will feel welcome and that we can take our place in helping them to feel welcome and wanted and cared for. Help us to see where our shortcomings are and where our skills are in these areas, and help us to want to help others belong to our youth group, to our church, and to your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, guys, we're going to break up into boys and girls tonight. So girls can stay up here. Guys are going to go downstairs.
Was it 2 middle school or 2 high school?
Yes.
I think it's still not mattering.